Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet?
I love people as I meet them one by one. People are just wonderful as individuals. You see the whole...
My great aspiration, my greatest ambition is to be so good. Now, in that way, I'm tiresome, as I suppose, to live with, because I want to be a fantastic human being.
I am the greatest.
We're not disputing that, Cassius, but how does Sonny Liston feel about it?
He can't feel but one way, and let's take everything I say and like it. Because February the 25th, I'm going to take back my job. I'm the champ. He's no champ. He's a tramp.
When you see men fall, don't laugh. Learn. Learn. Because you're on your way up. And the things that tempt people to fall, you and I are not free from that temptation.
By examining his own attitude towards the possibilities of peace, towards the Soviet Union, towards the course of the Cold War.
Art muscle. It was a way of making me feel that they were a part of me.
You see it on the bridge. Wait a minute, I didn't get it. If the government had to change the screw in the bridge, they had to shut it down. They got state troopers out there. They got lanes closed. They got their strange machines. How did they get up there?
What's up, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, all that good stuff. Welcome back. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. I don't know where you're from or what your time zone is right now, but if you are up early in the morning with us, we appreciate you. 2 more days to go. This week is going pretty fast. I got Sydney in the building. You know, this is her day to cut it up, man. Drop some knowledge for the good people. Shout outs to my poets, my writers, my content creators. You know who you are. Salutes to you, blessings to you all. I hope your week is going exceptional. This is going to be an interesting one. Let me bring Sydney up. Do me a solid. Repost, share, let the people know we are on. Yeah, let me bring her up on the screen really quick. And yeah, hold up. Yo.
Hello.
What up?
Not too much. I got distracted because I just discovered a flash drive from when I was in middle school. It was like from 2011 to 2015. So it has like my middle school and high school pictures. So I'm super stoked because I thought some of those were missing. Like I have a lot of my old pets that have since passed and some pictures of my dad and some of the stuff. Like I have pictures of me doing the shark stuff that I used to do volunteering. So I'm like, I've been looking for these. So I'm super excited to have those back. But I'm also excited to talk about this. This is a very relevant topic because it just happened. It's technically still happening right now. So I'm pretty excited to talk about it. How are you? Happy first day of Halloween.
It is the first day, isn't it? I wasn't even paying attention to it, but it's warm. It rained yesterday. It rained the day before. So, yeah, man, I'm excited for the transition. I'm ready for the cooler weather to creep in. Like the mornings are getting a little more chill to it. So, No complaints. No complaints at all.
Not a fan of snow, so I'm glad I'm not there. Even though I do look forward to, I hope we get some rain. Supposedly we're going to be getting some atmospheric rivers in the coming weeks, so hopefully we actually get some and it doesn't just go to Oregon and Washington.
I'm probably less likely to see snow than everywhere else. Like the last few years, we haven't really got anything real. So my hopes are up for it. I'm not really holding my breath. Outside of that, I am curious about this right here. I want to know what this is about. I'm ready to learn some stuff. Do you want me to bring any of these up right now, or do you want me to hold off on it? Because I got one on cue, but
Okay. Hold on. I do want to address one thing before. I found out today that Jane Goodall, the famous chimpanzee expert, passed away today. So I just wanted to do a shout out for her, to recognize her. For anyone that doesn't know her, she was, as I said, an expert in chimpanzees. She worked with them and was one of the first people to really kind of connect humans with monkeys and to show their intelligence, to show they are individuals just like us. They have personalities, and she's responsible for a lot of conservation efforts with chimpanzees, but also a lot of other animals. She did a lot of work. She's done a lot of outreach, education, and I'm pretty sure she's also written quite a number of books. So she was 91, so she lived a very long, happy life. But I just wanted to recognize her since she was so iconic with her work. She worked for 60 years with chimpanzees. So she was a very prominent individual in terms of the biology sphere. And she also was very important for women in the field as well. She started off in, I believe, the 50s or 60s. She was born in the 30s. So at that time, it was seen as a male career to be a scientist. And so it was very frowned upon for women to pursue that career. So the fact that she was so successful encouraged many other women to gain both the comfort in pursuing that career, but also showing that it could be done. She's received a number of prizes for everything that she's done. She got the Kyoto Prize, which is given to people for lifetime achievement in arts and sciences, who are basically who have used their knowledge to better the scientific, cultural, and spiritual communities. She also received the Hubbard Medal, which is named for Gardner Green Hubbard, the first National Geographic president. And it's basically presented to people to distinguish them for their exploration, discoveries, and research. She also got the Tyler Prize for Environmental Achievement, which is an award for those who are seeking better environmental health and environmental energy type of areas. And then she also got an award from Britain. She was born in England, and she received an award from them as well for their for chivalry. Basically, it was kind of the equivalent of getting knighted. She also got a Templeton Prize, which is to any individuals that show exemplary achievements, especially around like philanthropic type arenas. And then at this year, she received the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is bestowed upon people that are seen as promoting positive things for society, bettering people's lives, bettering our society in general. So she's a very distinguished woman. And if you guys don't know about her, I highly suggest looking into her, because she has a lot of information about the importance of conservation and why we need to love the animals around us just as much as we love and respect ourselves as humans. She, as I said, she worked with chimpanzees, and she actually lived in the wild with chimpanzees, and helped with interactions between the tribes as well, to encourage them to be more protective of the species. So yeah, she was a fantastic woman. So I just wanted to recognize her since she passed away today. And hello, Arcana. All right. So for this topic, we're going to look at the Fujiwhara effect. This has to do with hurricanes. Sometimes I think it can apply to other storms, but I think it primarily refers to hurricanes. And what it is a phenomenon when two storms get close to each other. They have to be within 1,200 miles of each other. Sometimes, to interact, they usually have to be even closer, about 870 miles, which is still crazy. Like California is about 800 or 900 miles, I think. So that's about the distance that these storms have to be to interact with each other. But basically, this was named for the scientist that originally described this effect. His name was, I'm going to butcher the name, Sakuhei Fujiwhara. He is Japanese, as you probably guessed from his name. He discovered this, I believe, in the 30s or 20s. And he basically noticed that when these storms get close enough to each other, they'll basically start to rotate around each other. There's a famous example in 2021, Odette and Siroha. We actually have the clip of this one. It's the rainbow colored one. And it shows these two storms like rotating around each other, which is one of the things that can happen. For the Fujiwhara effect, 3 different things could happen. One is that they can just kind of like rotate around each other and move off in a different direction. That usually is the case if they're more similar in size. Sometimes if one of the circulations is smaller than the other, they can basically fling the other hurricane out of the way, or like pull it off in a different direction than it normally would have gone. That just happened off the East Coast. We had a tropical storm and a Category 4 hurricane. The Category 4 hurricane was coming in. The tropical storm, which is not big enough to qualify as a hurricane, but it's on its way there. They got within distance, and the hurricane pulled the tropical storm away from the coast. And so it would have originally made landfall towards North and South Carolina, but because of their interaction, it actually got pulled out to sea and completely missed the East Coast. It kind of like buzzsawed a little bit of the Florida coast, but for the most part, it was just like really minor thunderstorms. Originally, they were expecting flash flooding, but they basically got like an inch of rain. Before, they were expecting like 10 inches of rain. So Sometimes this effect can be very useful to us, very helpful. It'll drag it out to sea and we don't have to worry about it. And then also, I guess there's 4 ways. Additionally, they can run into each other and kind of like cancel each other out, where they merge and then like they both fall apart. But the one that I find the most interesting, which doesn't happen very often, it's very rare, but sometimes if you have 2 of them fuse, it can supercharge it and become like you have 2 smaller ones and it becomes one really, really big one. I think there was one off the coast of China, India area once that did that. Let me see which one it was. The storm that I was mentioning earlier that just happened was Humberto, and Imelda was the tropical storm that it pulled out into the ocean. Let's see. I know there was one, I just don't remember its name. Example. Okay. Wow, it was also Humberto. In 1995, Hurricane Iris combined with Hurricane Humberto, a different one, and they basically merged and went through a period of rapid intensification. Rapid intensification means it goes up by, I forgot what their category is. Let me double check so I give you the right information. I know it's within a 24-hour period. Rapid intensification is the process when a tropical storm or a hurricane experiences a sudden increase in maximum sustained winds by at least 35 miles an hour in a 24-hour period. This can make the storm extremely dangerous, especially because it can take people by surprise. A really good example was in 2021, I believe, where they had a hurricane off the coast of Mexico appear literally overnight. Like in 12 hours, there was a tropical storm, and then it went to a category 5 and it made landfall at Acapulco. And it was extremely devastating because, one, people did not have a chance to prepare because it happened at night. And it was Hurricane Otis in 2023. And it intensified from 70 miles an hour to 165 miles an hour in less than 24 hours. It basically landfalled at a 5, which is above 150 mile an hour winds, I believe. And again, it was extremely damaging to that area. They had, I think like 5 feet of flooding or something like that. It hit peak winds of 165 miles an hour. It still made landfall as a category 5. Oftentimes when hurricanes approach land, they start to diminish in strength. So oftentimes, even if they're category 5 out in the ocean, when they hit, they can drop to like category 3 really quickly. But this one actually did landfall at category 5, and it caused 52 deaths, 32 people were missing, and it caused roughly $12 to $16 billion of damage, which is the costliest Pacific hurricane that we've had on record. And this surpassed the previous record holder back in 2013. So that one wasn't Fujiwhara effect, but it was an example of rapid intensification, which is something that can happen with the Fujiwhara effect. And as you see from this image, you can see these 2 storms like dancing around together around this common center. And part of this is like the reason why these storms rotate is because of the Coriolis effect, because the Earth is spinning. It causes the air to stir up and spin in a circular motion. So that's why you can have the double spinning, the spinning, and then they're spinning around each other. But part of the reason why it can make the other storms fall apart and it doesn't always supercharge them is because sometimes the winds can basically like rip each other apart. And so they can, once they run into each other, they can like basically just die because it breaks them up, and it breaks up their organization. That's what they call it when the hurricanes form. Went from tropical storm to hurricane. As it progresses to a hurricane, they call it more organized. That's how you can basically tell the difference between a tropical storm and a hurricane. Is a tropical storm does not have an eye, where a hurricane has an eye and also reaches certain wind speeds. I don't believe Imelda will reach Category 5. I think she's already weakening, especially because of the Humberto. I think right now she's Category 2. And it looks like for their predictions, she'll go off towards like past Canada. And by that point, it'll be too cold. So she'll pretty much collapse. She's not going to last much longer, I don't think. Probably maybe a day. So yeah, so she's falling apart. Humberto is also, I think he's a 4 right now. Let's see what they say. The stuff happens so quickly, I can't keep track of them all. The Humberto and Imelda, just for information, they came within 467 miles of each other as Category 1s. And they're the closest that two hurricanes have come to in the past 60 years. This, as I said, this is a very rare phenomenon. And it's even rarer for them to like supercharge each other. So this is more consistent with what we normally see when we do see the Fujiwhara effect. Let's see. Yeah, looks like, I think Humberto is really like a 2 now as well. Another interesting thing too is this can also happen with tornadoes. Obviously, it's not as significant really as hurricanes, since hurricanes are much larger area than just a tiny little tornado. But there are cases where tornadoes will like dance around each other, and I've heard of some occasions where they have fused. I just don't know specific examples, but I do know that it can happen. Other examples of Fujiwhara effects, there was Hurricane Easy and Fox, which also came within about 460 miles of each other. That was in 1951. In 1967, there was Hurricane Chloe and Doria. They were about 750 miles apart. And then we had Leslie and Michael in 2012, Jean and Carl in 1998. And they were a little bit less than 1,000 miles from each other. It's pretty cool to watch. There's a lot of different, we call it like GIFs of them doing that formation. And I always think it's super cool to watch them like dance around each other. The hurricane or the tornado versions are also really cool. It can cause them to like bend and snake around each other. So it's also, I've never seen one in person myself, but it's always really cool to see these types of interactions, especially because they're so rare. Let me see if I can find a specific example of the tornadoes. Let's see if I have more questions. Feel free to jump in if you want to while I look this up. Let's see.
Yeah, y'all gotta excuse me. I got a lot of side missions going on over this side, so I'll be popping in and out. An unexpected delivery is making its way to me. What was I going to say? I don't know what it is. I don't think we've ever had a hurricane. We've always had the remnants of it. Like, I don't remember the last time it rained for days straight. It's been a few. I remember specifically one year it had to have rained for at least an entire week plus. I had never seen anything like that. That was the one time I saw what Mother Nature could do when it rained consistently. Like, where you actually saw the water start to rise and start to overcome like the street, the sidewalk. It never got too bad, but that was one of the rare times in this part of the world where I saw it. But as far as being in it or experience it firsthand, nah. But shout out, I know Greg, he was a part of it. He knows a little bit about it. What's one thing that people get confused about when it comes to these things? Like, you think, oh, it's just rain and that's it, but there's a lot more to it. I remember you kind of spoke on the differences between hurricanes and tornadoes a while back. What do people get confused with these though?
So for hurricanes, the biggest difference is obviously the size. Like, hurricanes are going to only affect like a couple cities, where hurricanes can affect an entire coastline. I think one thing that, I mean, honestly, the biggest thing that people just, they don't take them seriously, particularly in places like Florida, Louisiana, unless you've experienced like a really, really severe one, such as Hurricane Katrina or Hurricane, was it Michael in 2005, something like that. We've had some pretty severe ones. But people get kind of blasé about them, and they think that they're not something to worry about. But hurricanes can be very deadly, even if they are only a category 1 or 2. One thing that people don't think about is hurricane intensity is hurricane and tornado intensity is only attached to their wind speeds. So hurricanes are once they hit over 72 miles an hour. Tornadoes, like an F5 is like 300 miles an hour or more, like 250, something like that. That's actually another interesting thing. Like, tornadoes actually have higher wind speeds than hurricanes. But people don't really consider, like, even if it's a low category storm, it can still be incredibly impactful if it's a very wet storm. Because you can have storms that have slow winds but drop a tremendous amount of rain in a short period of time. And truthfully, that's kind of what makes hurricanes dangerous and deadly. It's the rain that they bring, and also the storm surge. Because one of the things about hurricanes is, because of how they're spinning, they basically create a downward force onto the water, almost like the reverse of a vacuum, how you have air spinning up, pulling stuff up into the clouds, kind of like basically a tornado. Whereas hurricanes, because of the way they spin, they basically they cause low pressure. That's why, like, before storms, sometimes people have like sinus issues or like ear issues, because it's like low, really, really low pressure coming in. But they basically, this low pressure pushes a ridge of water out in front of the hurricane. And so even if you're not near the hurricane, even if the hurricane doesn't even directly impact you, it can still push water inland and raise the sea level without you even being there. That's why along the East Coast, even when they're like, for example, when Humberto went by, even though he didn't make landfall, they still had high surf warnings and were advising people to stay out of the water, because as it kind of churns off the coast, it can pull the water, but which cause like rip currents and stuff like that. And then it can also like churn things up, and like depending on how close, it can push the water inland. So really, hurricanes are the most damaging, in my opinion, because of their rainfall events. For example, I think Hurricane Katrina got like 10 feet of water, but that wasn't just because of the rain. It was also because their levees breached, and they also had the storm surge. But with tornadoes, they are deadly because of their wind speeds. Once you get past like 200 miles an hour, it basically peels the roof off. One of the ways that you can estimate the way that they estimate the size of tornadoes is usually done post-tornado, because they have to basically go in and observe what the damage was, and then they can give it a ranking. Whereas hurricanes, they have their ranking as they're developing. So as they start to form, they're tropical storms, and then they rank up 1 to 5, depending on how long they're able to last. And luckily, hurricanes are pretty finicky. Like they require water temperatures above 89 degrees. That's why you don't see any tornadoes really. I mean, any hurricanes off the West Coast. California has been hit by a single hurricane in its entire history that we know of. And it wasn't even technically a hurricane when it made landfall. It was just a tropical storm, but it was a hurricane, Cat 1, as it approached. And it was just like because of unseasonably warm temperatures at the time. But we had, or off the coast of California, we have what's called upwelling, where because of the shape of the coastline, because of the types of currents, and because the Pacific Ocean is so giant and deep, our water is much colder. The average temperature in Santa Cruz, when I worked there, the water temperature would fluctuate between 52 degrees and 56 degrees. And it never really dropped, or really never went above that. So places like San Francisco and like Los Angeles are never really going to get hit by hurricanes unless we continue with climate change. It could potentially become a possibility, but it would be a very, very unheard of event. Like if that happened, it would just be it would break open the science community. So luckily, there's a lot of places that are unable to have hurricanes, but in these shallower oceans, particularly, as we know, the Gulf, the other really frequent location is between the Australia and India, China, that area. They can get hit. Depending on where the hurricanes are, will determine what its name is. In our area, it's hurricanes. In Asia, they're cyclones, and then in in Australia, they have a different name. What is it? I think it's like Billabong or something. I might get it wrong. Or 5 different names. Okay, what am I missing? Hurricane is Atlantic and Eastern Central Pacific Oceans. So if Mexico got a hurricane on either coast, it would be, if Hawaii got one, those would all be hurricanes. Typhoon. Typhoon is the Western Pacific Ocean. So that can affect China, Japan, sometimes India and other locations along that coast. Indonesia. Cyclones are, okay, never mind. Take that back. Cyclones are in the Arabian Sea and Bay of Bengal. So that would be India and Indonesia type area. So the typhoons would basically be like up where Japan is, and the typhoons would be between like India and all of those island chains. And then a cyclone is within the northern Indian Oceans, or northern and southern Indian Oceans. And then I thought Australia had a different name for, but apparently they also call them cyclones. Let's see, I thought they had a specific name, which I always enjoyed because it sounded funny. What am I thinking of? Oh, okay. I thought it had a different name. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. But yeah, depending on where they are, they do have different names. But they all use the same categorization. So all the scientists, no matter where they live, do use the same like wind speed categories. And so hurricanes, as I said, they get their name they get their categorization as they develop. Whereas tornadoes, you have to come in after the fact and judge what the damage is, because you basically won't be able to tell until after it's over. With the most severe tornadoes, it can literally just like wipe the slate clean. You can have that's one of the signifiers of the oh my god, I keep wanting to say Cat 5. F5. With an F5, it can literally just like clear the entire house. It'll just be the slab of the house. And they're I don't know if they're going to do this, but I've heard rumors that they're considering adding a 6th level to this because of how many F5s we've had recently, and how like some are just like beyond, like there's nothing left. For F0s, those are 40 to 72 mile an hour. That'll be light damage, broken branches, small trees might be pulled up or knocked over. Brick type structures like chimneys might have some damage, mostly because of the projectiles. That's another reason why tornadoes can be so damaging, is not just the wind itself, but the stuff that's in the wind, because you're going to get glass and sticks and dirt and rocks and sometimes bigger things if it's a stronger tornado, like cars and entire houses. Like it's the stuff that it carries really that makes that wind so deadly, because that's not like the wind will blow over your stuff, but then you also have things being like flung at you. F1 tornadoes will have wind speeds between 73 and 112 miles an hour. You'll have moderate damage. You might have like tiles ripped off your roof. If you are in a mobile home, it might be moved out of the way. It might like pick up vehicles. When you get to F2, that's when you start to have the really significant damage, and a lot of homes really can't survive that without damage, unless it's like made really well. These speeds are between 113 to 157 miles an hour, which I think 157 is the top end of tornado or hurricanes. So, and they can, as I said, they cause significant damage. If you have a normal house, your roof can be torn off. Mobile homes, trailer parks, they can be completely annihilated. It can even pick up trains at this point. Large trees can be obliterated or uprooted and thrown. Smaller debris, as I was saying, can be turned into missiles. Once you get to F3, this is when it becomes like if you're outside, you're not going to survive. They can have wind speeds between 158 to 206 miles an hour. They can rip off roofs of even well-constructed buildings. They can knock over walls. They can basically, if there's a forest, it'll just rip everything up. There'll be no trees left, or at least they'll be overturned. It can, again, pick up trains. It can pick up cars. It can, at this point, throw cars. Or actually, no, that's F4. And F4 is 207 to 260 miles an hour. And at this point, even if you're in a building, you can still perish. It can completely destroy well-constructed houses. Anything with weak foundations can literally just be picked up and carried. Like, there are videos where you can see a hurricane approaching a house and the house just like, kind of like in Wizard of Oz. That would be like an F4, F5 tornado. Vehicles and large objects can be thrown for long distances. There are crazy, crazy stories of what tornadoes have done. I've heard of things like it drives a straw, like a drinking straw, through a tree. I've seen like 2x4s going through like a stone wall. I've heard of stories where like people, cars, objects, animals have been found like hundreds of miles away from where they were picked up. And there's also crazy stories too, where like people can be completely unharmed somehow. There was a story back in, I think it was like the 90s or early 2000s, where a baby was ripped from her mom's arms and was found like 100 miles away in a field, like completely unharmed and safe. Like she had some scratches, but that was it. So it's insane how it can like destroy one thing but be fine. And there are also like really interesting pictures of people's homes where like the entire house is destroyed, but there's like one wall that's put together, like that's still intact, and like it's all normal. Like the cup is still sitting on the counter and the food is still sitting on the table, but everything around them is destroyed. So it is really, the physics of tornadoes is quite interesting. And I always loved looking at photos of storm damage because I just think it's so mind-blowing to think about what these things can do. And I've luckily never been in any of these before. There are tornadoes in California, but I've never been in a location where I've been able to see one. But we typically don't get the big tornadoes. The max really I see in California is an F2. And they usually more so happen in the more rural areas. We get a lot of them, or a lot relatively, not compared to like Oklahoma. We can get a couple each year. And typically it's towards like Sacramento, the Central Valley, like Gilroy, Hollister kind of area inland from Monterey. You can sometimes get them in Southern California. San Diego's gotten some. Los Angeles has gotten some. Usually they're more associated with actual storm fronts. We don't we're luckily not like Oklahoma where they can just have a hot day and suddenly there's a tornado. We usually have to have a pretty strong storm for us to get them, but we do have some on occasion where they just kind of develop really quickly. But again, they're usually only like F2s or less. There was recently one in Los Angeles that literally went through downtown Los Angeles, and it was like an F1 or so, but you could actually see the circulation moving over the houses. I think it was in Montebello because my friend lives over there. With F5s, those are the ones that there's going to be nothing left. Their wind speeds are 261 to 318 miles an hour. And pretty much unless you have a tornado shelter or you specifically make your house to be earthquake proof, your house is not going to be there. Even vehicles can be thrown through your house. And with F4s and 5s, and probably even F3s, people can actually get sucked out the window. I've heard of stories of people getting sucked out of car windows, out of their houses, out ripped from other people's arms. So these wind speeds are very, very dangerous. But as I said, with the hurricanes, their damage is from the rain and the flooding, whereas the tornadoes is 100% from the wind speeds. And as I said, the stuff that it carries. Definitely not something you'd want to experience. Oh, that's cool. How phone books falling out of the sky. Oh yeah, that's a storm right there. That one's probably an F2 or 3 just from the look of it. Yeah, you can there's some really, really crazy. Let me look up some of them. I've always wanted to see a tornado, but I haven't been that lucky. Let's see.
Yeah, I felt like a visual effect would kind of add a little more to the severity. Because you say 40 miles, 100 miles, I don't really sound all that bad until you actually see the footage for yourself. And then it's we got a problem.
Let's see. Now, okay, so the one that I was mentioning, she's called the Mud Baby. So in 1999, she was pulled from her mother's arms and was miraculously found alive. There's another survivor in 2025. That was the one that I was mentioning that she got sucked out of her car. One of the things about tornadoes is you can have many tornadoes all at the same time. Hurricanes, we're lucky that you're not going to get hurricane. Once the hurricane passes through, it kind of depletes the energy that the hurricane would need. So unless it's an incredibly hot year, there's a low likelihood that you're just going to get one after another. But you can have extremely bad tornado outbreaks. There was an outbreak in 1925 that killed 700 people and injured over 2,000 people. It took place over Missouri, Illinois, and Indiana, and I believe it was over 300 different tornadoes. And some of them went through the same city multiple times. Oklahoma City is notorious for getting F5s. The tri-state tornado event was the second worst outbreak, I believe, that we've had in history, only followed up by 2011. 2011, we also had a super, super bad outbreak. Let's see. How many was it? How many? They had, I thought it was more than that. Oh, right. Tri-state tornado was a single one, not the outbreak. I was thinking of something else. The tri-state tornado was an F5 that traveled from Missouri to Indiana. It crossed the state of Illinois completely. And that's the one. A single tornado killed injured 700 people. And no, killed 700 people and injured 2,000 people. And that was a single tornado. I was mixing it up with the outbreak of 2011. That one, there was a bunch of hurricanes across multiple states. Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, Arkansas, Georgia, Kentucky, Louisiana, New York, Virginia, the Carolinas, and Florida and Louisiana. And they had a total, it was 21 states, including Canada. And they had 224 tornadoes in a single day. And there was multiple days of that event. So they had like over 500, I think, in a single day. 750 people were killed. And it was this, it was the second most intense tornado outbreak, 1974. That's the historical one that I was trying to think of. This one had 30 F4 and F5 tornadoes. They had 148 tornadoes confirmed in Ontario, Canada, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, and New York. And it caused, in 1974 era, $600 million, which is the equivalent of $3 billion today. And it covered about 900 square miles with a total path length of 2,600 miles of tornadoes. And they had, at one point, as many as 15 tornadoes happening at the same time. And they had more than 100 tornadoes show up in a 24-hour period. So this was by far the worst that we've ever seen. And it was incredible to see what type of damage they sustained. Like one of the famous photos of a plank just like driven through a tree was from that event. The United States is where most tornadoes happen, but we aren't the only ones that can have tornadoes. There have been tornadoes in Asia. There's been tornadoes in the United Kingdom. They had their own outbreak in 1981, and they had about 104 tornadoes, but they only peaked at like an F2. So a lot of other areas can have tornadoes. India has them as well. And you can also have them come out of hurricanes, cyclones / typhoons. But by far, United States outranks everyone with number of tornadoes and severity of tornadoes. I think the United States is the only place where we've had F5s. Let me double check to see if that's accurate.
And Connor, man, my prayers to you and the fam, man, because from what I'm reading, you've been a part of a lot of these storms, bro, and God grace kept y'all, man. So salutes to you, man. I'm sure you know a thing or two about how to survive these drinks, man. I ain't never been a part of none of them. I haven't even seen a tornado. Like, we get strong winds and we might get some stuff knocked over, but we don't get what a lot of people get on this side of the earth. You know what I mean? So I'm glad y'all good, man. For real.
So, there have been F5s in other regions, but by far not nearly as much as we've had. Argentina had one F5 in 1973. 1973 to 1974 was a year of weather extremes across the board. It was not just tornadoes. They also had extremely severe flooding. 1974, 2011, and 5, and 2007 were all very, very significant weather years. I think most of those still remain in the record books for most severe, like flooding, hurricanes, tornadoes, fires. Oftentimes, when you have a really severe tornado year, it also coincides with other areas getting really severe weather as well, because it's kind of like an across the globe effect. So Argentina had an F5 in 1973. Australia has had one EF tornado. Canada has had an EF tornado. That was in 2007. France has had 2 EF5 tornadoes. Germany had 2. And Italy has had 1 in 1930. So we're not the only ones that have gotten F5s, but you can definitely see that there is not nearly as many elsewhere as there are here. That's why you call the central U.S. Tornado Alley, because that's where they like to go. It's part of the reason, or the main reason, why we have so many tornadoes in that region is a unique geography, basically, because we have mountains. Like, do I have a map? I think I do somewhere. Haha. This comes in handy. Perfect. Okay. So we have the US, and let's see. You have mountain ranges. You can kind of see you have mountain range here, and you have a mountain range on this side, and that allows the basically when the air goes over mountains, it'll get forced up because of the mountain, and it drops, and that dropping contributes to circulation of storms, because kind of like if you ever take your hand and like push down in the water, like in a tub or something, it'll like cause little whirlpools. It's kind of a similar effect. Also, it causes when you push air up really quickly, it causes rapid cooling, and cool air is heavier, so then it will drop down much faster. And in the Midwest, it's flat. It's very flat. There aren't any mountains there. And so when it kind of gets to that point, it allows that wind to like flatten out. And because it's also like the type of, it's like plains, so it's hot, it holds on to heat. And so that heat mixing, like you have the cold air coming down, you have the warmth coming up, that causes that circulation. And because you have the flat ground, you have currents that kind of come this way. So as it mixes, you have that wind coming, and it can push essentially that rotation. So instead of it going this way, you get the winds that push it this way, and so then you have that rotation. There's other factors that come into play, such as humidity and other storm impacts, like the way cumulonimbus and the types of clouds form also contribute to the hurricane, to the tornadoes. So that is kind of why we see so many tornadoes in the Midwest, because it's like the perfect concoction of, oh, and then also you have the cold air coming from Canada and the warm air coming from the Gulf. So then you have the air like rising and falling, but then you also have moist warm air and dry cold air, and that creates that front. And on those fronts is where you'll see that really turbulent air. There's a cool picture. Let's see. When they're called, oh my God, am I really blanking on that? What are the storms? It's a particular cloud that they look for. I want to say it's the anvil cloud, but I think that's just the shape of it. There's a specific name for it. But there's it's kind of cool. If you look at radars, you can actually sometimes see the little tornado come out. Supercell. I can't believe I forgot that. A supercell is a specific type of storm that has uplift. And you can tell a supercell because it basically is shaped like an anvil. That's why it's called an anvil cloud. And often the tornado will occur towards the front. No, thank you. My child. Let's see. So this is the image. So I don't know if you can see that. Let me lower the light. Go away. Go away. Okay. So you have that warm air pushing up on those clouds, and then you have the cold air. Where's my finger? That blue area that is showing, that's called a downburst. Downbursts are pretty interesting to experience. It can cause straight line winds ahead of it, which are similar to what affected, I think it was like Illinois in 2020, the derecho that we had. I forgot what year it was, but it was like somewhere between 2020 and 2025. And those are straight line winds that are basically the same speed. Like I think those got to 100 miles an hour. So you can get those types of things with the same weather formations that create tornadoes. But basically tornadoes happen because of all that mixing. It causes, I'll show you, it pulls the warm air up, and as the cold air drops, it basically creates a circulation. And as I said, like when you have those winds coming across, it pushes that circulation upright. And so it becomes that. And then they can be sustained if there's not a lot of interacting currents. So that's why you can have a clear, beautiful day, and by the afternoon, suddenly there's tornadoes everywhere. Because you can have these storms occur really quickly. All you need is that temperature difference, and that's why tornadoes typically happen in the afternoon and at night, and rarely happen in early morning, because at night is when you start to have all the heat that was stored in the ground from the sunlight rising back up into the atmosphere. And as it gets colder at night, you have that rising heat and dropping cold air. And then oftentimes a lot of those areas have the winds that come up at night just because of that change in temperature, and that allows the formation to happen really quickly. The thing I was mentioning on the radio or on the radar is called a hook echo, and that's how you can tell from an image that a tornado is occurring. It's pretty cool. It's like a tiny little hurricane, but that would be the tornado right there. And they pretty much all look the same. And depending on how severe the tornado is, will be how defined that circulation is. So that's another one. But just like hurricanes, you can have some that are nearby each other. It's not very common that they like merge with each other, but it is possible. Let's see. There's some that I've seen before. Oh yeah, here's some that are multiple tornadoes at the same time. So you have 1, 2, and 3. You can kind of see that circulation. So you can have some that are nearby. You can also very occasionally get twin tornadoes where like 2 come out of the cloud at the same time. I've also seen a triple once, but those aren't super common. And usually when they do, they're in the United States. But yeah, they're pretty neat to look at. I've always enjoyed like weather radar watching and stuff like that, because you can see the mechanics happening, especially when you like look at the temperature difference and the wind speed and stuff like that. So yeah, I obviously, as you can tell, I absolutely love storms. I think they're extremely interesting. And it's something that we really need to understand, because as climate change intensifies, we're going to see more of these storms. As I said, they're considering in F6 because of how severe some of these recent tornadoes have been. There was one that like wiped the city off the map. There was like, I saw the image of it, and it was literally just like pads of concrete and nothing else. Like there might have been a couple like torn up trees, but it was just like the stump, and it was all like broken. So they're considering adding a new one just to compensate for the ones that are above and beyond that. And then also some of them have hit wind speeds above the Cat 5 categorization. So I think that's another reason why they're going to add potentially. It's still like, it takes a while for scientists to kind of come to an agreement. So I can't imagine it's going to happen anytime soon, but it is a possibility. I've heard arguments against it because they worry that if they change the classification, people will take the lower ones less seriously. Because that is one of the big issues with storms. As Mel asked earlier, like what's a miscommunication, or like what's something people don't understand, is a lot of people underestimate storms. They think, oh, I'll be fine. Like my house has withstood storms before, so it'll be fine. And then also some people don't really have the opportunity to protect themselves, to make their home up to standard. So you can lose a lot of lives if people don't take the report seriously. And they do worry that it will affect how people think of the storms. But yeah, as I said, it's still kind of in debate. I think maybe they should, just because we can expect these storms to get worse. As our oceans get warmer, our hurricanes will be able to last longer and to move into locations that they previously were not able to move into, since they need that water temperature to help them sustain their wind speed. That's why as soon as they hit land, they rapidly fall apart, because they need that water to sustain themselves, because they're basically pulling heat from the ocean to sustain themselves. And that's why, as I said, you can't have multiple hurricanes back to back, because it basically sucks some of the heat out and cools it down a bit, so it needs time to warm back up. With tornadoes, it's a bit different. Obviously, you can have much longer tracks, because they're not dependent on the environment or the ground for their fuel. They're fueled by the storm above, and so if that storm travels and has the right conditions, it can let a tornado persist for hundreds of miles. Let's see. It's cool. Also, another thing that's pretty cool is if you go on Google Maps, you can actually find tornado tracks. Like if you go over the Midwest area or like Florida, all those places, if you zoom in, there'll be little like scratch marks across the ground, and you can actually see the track that it has. This is an example of one close up. And you can see where that tornado went through that neighborhood. Here's another that you can see. But it's pretty cool that you can actually see them from space. Sometimes the tornadoes are so severe that they actually like rip up the topsoil. They like literally shave off the top layer of the ground, and it's just like bedrock underneath. So they can do some super crazy damage. I find them so fascinating, and I both equally want to see one, and I'm very glad that I don't have to see them all the time. Let me see if I can find. I know there's one that I've seen. There's some historical tornadoes where you can still, to this day, see the tornado track of where it went. Oklahoma's pretty. Oklahoma is the location that gets the most tornadoes, partially because of their central location and their relative distance to the Gulf Coast. Because they get a lot of warm, humid air. Anyone that has high humidity is at higher risk of having tornadoes, because the humidity is what tornadoes love, because it has that heat and it has that moisture. But you also need the cold, dry air as well, because the mixing of those four variables is what is responsible for creating these storms that carry the tornadoes. So as long as you have those ingredients, that storm can persist for a very long time. Let's see. There were in 2011, some of those tornado tracks could be seen from space. Here's one. Here's an example. So that is from space. There's another one. This was in Massachusetts. And you can see that line all the way across that looks like a road. That's actually a tornado track. So these things can do some pretty significant damage. I think you can actually still see some of the ones from 2011. Storms are super cool. I just hope that if there are storms in your area, heed those warnings. If you don't, make sure you have an alert system available on your phone that can notify you if a severe storm is moving in. Even if you don't get tornadoes or hurricanes where you live, it still could be useful, especially if you live by bodies of water. Flash flooding can happen even if a storm is far away. So if you're in low-lying areas, it's also good to have these notifications, because if there is a flash flood incident, you can be warned about it before it happens. But in general, have alerts available to you. That way you are able to get to safety fast. And keep in mind that sometimes with these storms, you only have a couple minutes, sometimes not even that. So if you hear what sounds like a train coming towards your house and you know there's no trains by your house, go into a bathroom, go into an interior room in the house that has no walls to the outside. You can also like tie yourself to plumbing, like go into a cabinet and like tie yourself to plumbing, because often those are deep enough that they don't get ripped out. Or hide under stairs or in a basement. If you don't have that, like let's say you're in a mobile home or you are in a house that's like not very safe, try and find a low-lying area, like find a ditch, find a hole in the ground, find a tree roots that you can squeeze under or something. Like because one of the nice relative nice things about tornadoes is because they're suction based, if you are lower than the winds, it'll basically pass over you. So if you're able to lie in a ditch and hold on, it can basically just pass over you unscathed. Make sure you protect your head though, because as I said, it can be flying projectiles everywhere. I would highly suggest, if you can, covering yourself with a blanket or a tarp or something. But yeah, make sure you are alert if you live in an area where tornadoes occur. And then if you are somewhere where you can get hit by hurricanes, heed their warnings. If they tell you to get out, get out. I know a lot of people are very sentimental and they don't want to leave their home, but I promise your life is worth way more than your stuff. And it's really not worth testing nature and seeing what she can give you, because believe me, if nature wants to, she's going to win. And you don't want to be there if she decides that she's going to win. So yeah, make sure that you are aware of what's going on around you. Just like here in California, I have an earthquake alert on my phone. We only get a couple seconds of warning, but it's still very beneficial, because it's the difference between being able to be under a table or being out in the open where a vase is going to fall on your head. So in general, depending on where you are, have alerts for what you are susceptible for. And that can make a huge difference. And if you can afford to, make some sort of storm shelter in your house, like even just a concrete box with a door, like a metal locking door. Those can be life-saving. I've seen multiple accounts of people that just thought of putting it in there, and they were hit by a tornado and their whole house was gone, and the only thing left was that shelter they built. So if you have the ability, retrofit your house and find a way to protect yourself from impending damage. For hurricanes, it's a little bit easier to protect yourself from, as long as you're not in a low-lying area, because obviously it doesn't have nearly as strong of winds as tornadoes can have. So really, for the winds of hurricanes, one of the best things you can do is board up your windows. It prevents things from like smashing the windows and then just like blowing through your house, because the pressure of these storms can shatter your windows. And when that does, it basically, like, that's where the suction comes from, is once that pressure is broken, it allows it to like suck you out either one way or out the other, or it can just like blow you straight out of the house. So yeah, make sure you protect yourself and don't be one of those people that like, I'm going to go outside and film it if it's coming right at me. Which reminds me, if you see a tornado and it looks like it's sitting in one place, it's coming towards you. if it's moving in one direction and you can see it moving in one direction, that's where the tornado is going. But if it looks like it's just getting bigger and bigger and it's not changing location, it's coming right at you, and you probably want to go hide. Hurricanes, self-explanatory. We can see them coming. It's kind of hard not to notice them. So, yeah, I hope this information was as fun as it was for me, and interesting, and possibly life-saving. I hope none of you guys have to actually use this information to protect yourself. But in the case of those, I hope that you guys are able to survive. Like, these things can be really severe. So I pray for any of you guys living in these areas that nothing like this ever does happen to you. And don't move to Oklahoma City if you don't like tornadoes.
Nah, you help. You definitely help somebody, for sure. At some point, somebody's going to come across it that they haven't already watched. And they're going to share this information out. Each one teach one. And you definitely did that. Put respect on Mother Nature's name. I don't know why people moving. I'm gonna hold my tongue on that. Shout out to the people. Shout out to Sydney. Be safe out there if you are in those locations. Spread this message out. Somebody might want to hear this. They might need to hear this, especially if you're in those areas. Well, all right. You're actually on mute, so I couldn't if you was.
These were the twin tornadoes that I was talking about earlier. It was in Pilger, Nebraska, and they were two EF4s that happened side by side. So that's an example of tornado Fujiwhara effect. Even though they didn't actually combine, they were still kind of like rotating around each other. And what was the other one? Let me see if I can find it. There's another picture. I'll probably have to find it and show it next time. But there's another really cool picture where the tornadoes are literally like doing a circulation around each other, and it's pretty neat to look at. But yeah, I could definitely talk for hours and hours about tornadoes and hurricanes.
It's all love. It's all love. I'm glad we have that knowledge on this side of the internet. I'm humble. I thank you for the wisdom. I appreciate you for taking time out of your day to spend with us. I hope you enjoy the rest of your night. To the people, drive safe.
That's it. Oh, let me start it over.
Oh. Yeah. That's dope. That's dope. You couldn't pay me enough to do it professionally, but yeah.
I used to want to be a storm chaser, and then I had kids.
Hey, hey. Give me a safe distance, maybe.
Yeah.
I've seen Twister. I know they can actually change direction.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Wiggle around and stuff.
Yeah, I won't mess with that. They did before we go, I just want to say they did a remake. I didn't get a chance to see it, so I don't know if it's good or not. If anybody has seen the remake to Twister, let me know.
It's good.
It is?
Mm-hmm. It is.
I'm gonna have to check it out.
You'll also really like Night of the Twisters, which was inspired by the 2011 outbreak.
Noted. That give me something to put on my watch list.
Here it is. Okay. So you can see them like moving together and turning into one bigger one. So that's the Fujiwhara effect with tornadoes.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fire.
Right. Let me see if I can find. I want to show you the 2011 storm track too, because that was.
Yeah, good luck trying to outrun that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, don't ever. Oh my gosh, that's actually a good point that I want to bring up. Don't ever try to outrun a tornado in your car, because you, as you said, you don't know if it's going to change directions. And it can be very, very dangerous, especially because you can't see often. Like sometimes you can't even see the tornado. If it's rain wrapped, it just looks like a huge wall of clouds, and you won't be able to tell. So don't try to outrun it. If you're, even professionals can get caught in these storms. There was a very famous tornado chaser that died in the 2011 outbreak because he accidentally crossed paths with the tornado and it threw his car and killed everyone in the vehicle. So even experts can be caught by these tornadoes. So don't try to outrun a tornado because you won't win. Let's see. Okay, so that was the tri-state tornado. So you can see Indiana, Missouri, Illinois. And so it went across all the way. And that's the longest track we've ever had.
With that being said, y'all be safe out there. Please. Enjoy your night.
Thank you for joining us, Chef and Arcana. I always enjoy having you in the chat.
Absolutely. Damn, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. If I don't, I'm going to see some of y'all tomorrow morning. Some of you I won't. If I don't, y'all have a blessed day. Donald Trump still saying stupid stuff out of his mouth.
Oh, yeah. You also heard Ted Cruz as well. He accidentally said we have to stop attacking P-word individuals, children, people. Whoops, Freudian slip. We know how he's thinking.
Right. That's going to be a good one, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, y'all tap in with us. 11 o'clock.
I'll be there.
All right, y'all enjoy the rest of your night. Do me a solid before y'all go.
What's the goddamn button?
Thank you, guys.
Peace.
By examining his own attitude towards the possibilities of peace, towards the Soviet Union, towards the course of the Cold War.
Art muscle. It was a way of making me feel that they were a part of me.
You see it on the bridge. Wait, how they get it? If the government had to change the screw in the bridge, they had to shut it down. They got state troopers out there. They got lanes closed. They got their own strange machines.